Hi, everybody. Ian Bremmer here, and lots more to talk about in terms of the ongoing war in Iran. The Trump administration has been given lots of different reasons for the attack, as well as what they're trying to accomplish. Going forward, the most significant thing is that we're seeing from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, from Trump, from others, that we should expect much larger military operations soon. And there is significant concern that there are going to be more American casualties than the ones we've seen so far. Now, they've backed away from regime change, so it clearly doesn't seem that what they're thinking about is a way to insert special forces or whatnot to try to secure or bring about a new government. And I think that's a positive thing because it would be wildly unpopular in the United States. It would cause lots, incredibly risky to do. Um, and Trump did originally say that he wanted the Iranian people to rise up and take their government, but he's clearly not saying that now. It's not been the talking points over the last 48 hours. He plausibly understands that the next group that comes into power could be just as bad as those that the Israelis have just assassinated. But he does want to have leverage over the regime, and he recognizes he doesn't necessarily right now have people that the American government believes that they can work with. He said that many of those they've thought about have already been killed. That makes it a lot harder. He said it's not Reza Pahlavi. He wants it to be someone from inside the country, not outside, and analogous to the way he's spoken about Venezuela transition, for example. So if it's not regime change, and if there's no way to get from here to there plausibly, at least not in the near term, in terms of the Iranian people on the ground, they're not organized, they don't have the military capabilities, there's still plenty of capacity to repress. Then what is it? What's going to come next? And one thing to think about. I mean, Trump does keep talking about the fact that he wants to take the oil, and he certainly doesn't want boots on the ground long term. So maybe what he's thinking about is seizing Kharg Island, which is where the Iranians export some 80 to 90% of all of their oil. They service all the big oil tankers, the super tankers. And that reliance, if the Americans were to take it, would allow them to put enormous pressure on any Iranian regime without the need for boots on the ground in Tehran, without the need to have control over the next government, whatever it's likely to be. And so, I mean, I could see that as certainly something that they are actively talking about, even if it isn't a plan. Now, I mean, Iran has already had much of its military capabilities destroyed. Its navy is mostly gone at this point, and its air defense systems are mostly gone, which is we've certainly seen that in their lack of ability to respond effectively to the American and Israeli strikes that are coming in. There is command and control, but it's local senior commanders that are leading the response right now and calling on the strikes. So it doesn't appear that the Americans, the Israelis, think that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are actually driving a coordinated response. And so if that's the case, given how much there's Navy buildup in the region, and how small the island is, and the fact that it's not particularly extensively fortified, that seems like maybe it ticks the boxes for what this big new thing is that the Trump administration is talking about. Because, if you control the oil exports, you have much greater leverage over the regime long term. And if you don't control the exports, your ability, either you have to allow them to export or prices are going to be a lot higher. And President Trump has made it clear that he really wants gas prices low, and you can, only do so much when there is a major war and the ability to disrupt. And so, absent a willingness to cut off everything the Iranians are doing, and also be vulnerable to continued challenges with transit points in the Straits of Hormuz, that, only way you can think about keeping prices low and stopping the Iranians from having huge amounts of cash, which they can then rebuild their program with. I mean, it's either regime change, which they don't seem to have a mechanism to get to, or it's controlling the oil. And that is kind of the Venezuela model at this point, right? I mean, that's, you've got, the United States putting together a mechanism where the Venezuelans are selling their oil, but the U.S. has control over how the revenues are actually used. Now, that depends on cooperative leadership, but you've got a lot more control if you actually have the critical infrastructure in your hands. Also, the United States really wants to make sure that oil is flowing out of Iran, given that China gets like 80% of Iranian oil exports right now, and the U.S. and China are talking about that. And so that keeps the summit on track. It's a big win for Trump, with probably much less downside than other big things they are thinking about right now. But there is real downside. There's no question that the fact that the Iranians have all of these inexpensive drones, thousands and thousands, that they are using and deploying in a decentralized way against targets all over the Gulf, including civilian targets. And those targets are not hardened. If they continue to do that, there's going to be a lot of market downside. You're not going to have transit through Dubai airport. You're going to have difficulties in getting oil out. And certainly, if the regime feels like they're cornered and they have no way out, their willingness maybe even to engage in suicide missions with their own oil transit is something that we wouldn't have thought about a year ago or 2 years ago, but is something you would think about after the supreme leader's been assassinated and a whole bunch of the military leadership too. So it may well be that the risk acceptance of Iran changes the attractiveness of a lot of the American options that a week ago they had on the table. But at the very least, again, the fact that everything we're seeing from the Trump administration right now is you ain't seen nothing yet, a lot more is coming, but they don't seem to have a regime change strategy. And they don't want to have large numbers of boots on the ground. Otherwise, there's going to be continued significant capability and leverage for an Iranian regime that is likely to be implacably hostile for quite some time. This may well be what we're thinking about over the coming days and weeks. So I thought it was worth raising the idea and having people chew it over. And we'll continue to monitor this very closely and talk to you all real soon.